Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Steve-O and Nick.
Yes.
Hey Steve-O, how are you?
It's great. I'm really happy about this one. We're going to talk about the new Ozempic.
We are,
Yeah.
according to TikTok.
So I'm going to be thin in 3 days.
Yeah.
Super sexy than I am.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, if that's possible, Steve.
Wow. So what is this magic?
So we're going to talk about Berberine today.
Berberine? What's that?
Yeah, Berberine. So Berberine has been around for a long time. How many years has it been around?
Oh,
thousands, actually.
Yeah,
I would say 3,000
one
years.
study over, yeah.
We use it in natural medicine for a long, long time, but it seems to have made this popular resurgence across social media and everyone seems to be jumping on board. So we thought that we would do a little bit of a discussion on Berberine, the good, the bad and the ugly. I don't think there's too much ugly, but there might be a little bit.
Well, the only ugly thing I saw was the cameraman sent us some videos from TikTok that we had to watch.
We did.
The first one I was like,
scary.
is this what? Because I don't go on TikTok.
No, I don't go on TikTok either.
And we're watching this guy and he's
I'm not really sure what he was even saying at
he was sort of going, and then he dropped his pants and
he dropped his pants. He showed his abs.
Showed his abs.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
it
was
all
odd.
a bit strange. And he was talking about how he's pooping now. And
and
it was all a bit weird. And then he's
how
talking
his
about
pancreas was. What was it? It improved his pancreas. I know it did something weird. Something to his pancreas just made no sense. Stimulated his pancreas.
And it's like, oh my God. And it's sort of like, I'm just thinking, it just was a very funny video.
It was very unusual. So yes, but we've been hearing a lot around the traps with Berberine, and it's actually shown a bit of a resurgence across my industry, my clinical industry as well. A lot of the companies are bringing out more Berberine and a lot of more research on it. So we thought we'd do a bit of a chat about it because it is an amazing herb and it does have some fantastic benefits for those who need it. And then we're also going to talk about some of the maybe less positive effects that it can have longer term, and probably effects for people who probably shouldn't be buying it online and just using it when they actually don't need it. So there's that.
Now, my earliest recollection of Berberine was this. It was a chemical that was found in a herb that we was taught about first year called golden seal, Hydrastis canadensis. And we were taught that it was the queen of mucous membranes. I don't know why it wasn't the king. I don't know why it wasn't the jester. It was the queen.
Because the queen's the top of the tree, Steve.
Was until the queen fell off the perch and now we've got a king.
That's true.
Yeah, so, but it was I suppose that makes sense because what the queen was around then. But yeah, and queen of mucous membranes, and it's sort of like, wow, what does that mean? And because remember, it wasn't very scientific in the 90s. You know, natural medicine we've used it for years, it's worked, and this is what we think it does. And it was a mucous membrane tonic. And it's like, that's weird. Yeah. But now what we know with Hydrastis is the fact that it reduces allergens and increases TLP1, so reduces TLP, so it reduces mucus that way.
Yes.
And it's one of the main components of it is berberine.
That's right. Yeah.
And so berberine has that role. And as you said, there's many, many other roles. But let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. It's the new Ozempic, isn't it? Why is it sort of touted as that?
Well, it does. Well, okay. So one of the main reasons that I would use it in clinic is for people with metabolic syndrome, pre-diabetes, that type of thing, insulin issues, people in that sort of population. So obviously Ozempic is for people who want to lose weight. So if we're working on insulin levels, that can impact our weight. So that's why people are jumping on the whole Berberine bandwagon, thinking that they're just going to lose all this weight by taking Berberine, which not entirely true.
No. Firstly, the whole thing about weight loss, just to back up a bit here, is people say, I want to lose weight. It's okay. Do you want to lose weight or do you want to lose muscle? And do you want to lose fat?
Yeah.
You want to lose fat, keep your muscle, go to the gym, work it out, and you'll lose fat. Ozempic just is a GLP-1 agonist, so it inhibits, it drives up a gastric-like peptide 1, which causes you to feel full. And because it's an artificial stimulant, about 80% of people who go on it feel sick, so they eat less.
Yes.
And they lose weight, whatever that is. It's not just specifically fat. You just lose weight.
Lose weight, yeah. Mostly you're really going to lose protein before you lose fat most of the time.
Yeah, and it gets these horrendous side effects. I mean, even on the manufacturer's website, thyroid cancer, just to start with. But also it causes Ozempic face, which is the diminishing of your cheek structure and all that sort of stuff, and wrinkles and obviously it's artificial, and obviously it costs a bomb.
And there's a huge bounce back if you go off it. So if you go, you're kind of stuck on it if you don't want to put the weight back on. if you're not doing any underlying lifestyle things, there is that huge bounce back.
Refer to our old podcast where we talked about it to the cows come home. But we're talking about berberine. You mentioned something interesting. It's very good for metabolic syndrome.
Yes.
Which is when you've got high lipids, you've got, dysglycemia, we'll call it, which is problems with your blood sugar levels.
Yeah.
So it's the one before type 2 diabetes. It's of about 1 million people in Australia have it. The overweight, thick around the waist people, and dyslipids in their blood, sugars, some hormonal problems, and they think that's it. But there is some evidence for that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence. We've got studies galore. We're not going to read out all the studies, but we definitely have the links that if people are interested in it.
Yeah.
So, I've got a study here. It was shown to help lower blood glucose levels. That one's a fairly significant study. Positively impacts glucose lipid metabolism, inflammatory factors, and insulin resistance in patients with metabolic syndrome. So there's loads and loads of studies on its benefits for that. So that's one of the main reasons that we use it in natural medicine.
Crazy stuff. And of course, the thing about this is, and there's loads of herbs. I've got a list of the herbs, and there's about 30 of them with berberine in it.
Yeah.
But people are buying berberine direct from online, which you can easily get these days on eBay and all those other places.
Yeah.
So they're getting all this berberine, and but there is evidence that berberine can improve type 2 diabetes. Now, the mechanism of action is very interesting. I've got a beautiful diagram here. I love these diagrams.
I know, they're great diagrams.
Yeah, it just shows you how things work, and most of it is through the intestinal microbiome.
Yes.
Now, what's the microbiome?
So the microbiome is basically the makeup of all our bacteria, our fungi, our archaea, our virus in our gut. So they make up the entire that environment within our gut. And we've talked about the microbiome multiple times before. So this definitely does impact the microbiome.
Yeah.
In a positive way when we will talk about that in some instances, and in a not so positive way in others.
You're right. Too much of anything's bad for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, here's the problem, is that let's say I'm trying to lose weight and a little bit of this stuff might help. So I'm going to take a lot of the stuff.
Which we're seeing a lot of people online that are taking a lot of this stuff. And so one of the other actions of berberine is it's antimicrobial within the gut.
All right.
So, antimicrobial basically means it will kill bacteria, primarily bacteria. Well, actually, no, it's antifungal as well. So antibacterial, antifungal. So that can kill off those microbes within our gut. So problematic longer term, depending on what's being killed off. So we have to take that
potential problems. So you don't just go take this willy-nilly and hope for the best.
No.
Look, in this particular paper that I'm reading here, it's the Frontiers in Cellular Infection Microbiology, and it was published February 2021 for those who are listening. Now, via the microbiome, berberine, in the right doses in these studies, this is a big review paper, it improves diabetes by regulating the gut microbiome. So I love that.
Yeah.
So, isn't it funny? And this is where we thrive as natural therapists, is we understand the microbiome, we love the microbiome. How many, and I'm not having a go here, but mainstream endocrinologists consider the gut microbiome?
Very rarely.
It's rare, isn't it?
Very rare, yeah.
And also this is very good for your liver. It improves liver disease via the gut microbiome again.
Yep.
And it does reduce obesity, again, via the microbiome. But it's not the be-all and end-all.
No.
It's only an assistance.
And I guess what we've got to look at is the people buying it off the internet that probably don't have any issues with their microbiome. What are they going to be doing what damage are they going to be doing to their microbiome by taking this if they had no issues? So the people that I see that I've put it on in the past generally have obviously underlying issues. So they may have PCOS or insulin issues, metabolic syndrome. So they already have a dysregulated gut microbiome.
Yeah.
So when we're putting in an antimicrobial in that instance, it's probably regulating some bacteria to a degree. But if you don't have any issues with your gut, then you're going to be killing off some healthy microbes that you probably shouldn't be.
And that's why they got to see people like you to get the right sort of diagnosis and therefore the right treatment, because the most expensive supplement is the one you don't need.
That's right.
The whole berberine thing, it looks like it's beneficial via the microbiome, but it may not be right for you.
That's right. And I have had clients, and I do a lot of stool analysis, obviously, with clients that I've had on berberine, and then we've done stool analysis to check other things or the treatment, how the protocols are going. And I've seen significant changes in their microbiome, some positive, some negative. So, as you said, some people are dosing this very high as well. So it is considered a selective antimicrobial, which basically means it won't just obliterate your microbiome. It will choose different bacteria and pathogens and things to reduce. I am of the opinion clinically, like from my clinical observations and other practitioners in the industry, that it is more non-selective. So it will, meaning that it will it can kill off anything. So that's where you've got to be a little bit careful. So if you're killing off high amounts of beneficial bacteria by taking very high doses of berberine, then when you stop taking that, you're going to have a bounce back effect, some of these bacteria, and then start a whole lot of problems that you may not have had before. And then you might end up with, weight issues amongst other things that can happen when you obliterate your microbiome.
It's nuts, isn't it? So the thing is that, again, the only difference between a poison and a therapy is the dose.
Yes.
Okay? So if I gave you a little bit of lithium, it'd be very good for your brain, because lithium's good for your brain.
That's
about
right.
1 milligram, 1 to 5 milligrams. It's what we used to prescribe in the olden days, in the 90s. Now lithium's a drug, but you take the minimum dose is 300 milligrams, because at that dose it acts as a drug.
That's right.
So, you've got to be very careful. They use lithium carbonate quite a lot for bipolar disorders. So this is a bit scary.
Yeah.
Because, you got to remember, going off the internet and all this sort of stuff, you don't know how much you're taking. You don't know what the right dose is.
You don't know the quality of the ingredients either, where they've come from, any of that sort of thing.
Now, this is an interesting herb because it was traditionally used, but it wasn't traditionally consumed as a food because it tastes like...
it tastes horrendous.
Yeah, I can't even swear because we're going to get a warning on Facebook.
It's horrendous.
But it's terrible stuff. Geez, some of our herbs we use are
I know.
Scheiße, aren't they?
It is.
Can
They
I
are.
Can I swear in German?
Yeah.
You're
Well, I'm
German.
German. I'll understand it.
Yeah. Scheiße.
Scheiße. Yes, so...
That's going to get pinged, isn't it? Yeah.
Now I've got my train of thought. What were we saying? That it tastes terrible. So, it works in anything that sort of works on the liver as well. It's extremely bitter, and so it's got that. And the other thing, you know what the other traditional use for berberine was back in the day? They used it as a dye because it's yellow.
Oh, yes.
It's like a really golden yellow, so it stains everything. So it's very good. They used to use it for dyeing fabrics and things hundreds and thousands. Was it thousands of years ago? A couple of thousand years ago.
Really bad tasting, but also, you said dose dependent.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly important because without that, you're going to run into trouble. Now, the thing is also, let's say taking it online. Let's say I'm taking online, I think, that golden seal stuff sounds good. I'll take some of that. And then you take another herb, like you take some barberry with it, and you go on like that, and guess what you're going to end up with?
Mega doses.
Loads and loads of berberine, because there's so many activities. But I've got another chart here which summarises the effects as published in Molecules 2022.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it's a nice little one, and it talks about berberine, as you mentioned, with its metabolic syndrome. It's a real nice, simple graph there with all the bubbles on it.
Yep.
Can hold it up to the camera to see the little and it just summarises, like, this is a massive 32-page article of what it does, but I'll just start from the top here. Anti-cancer properties. So we'll start with that one.
Yeah.
Anti-cancer.
Yep.
So this is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. So, maybe we'll talk about, is there some negatives in there, or are we going to talk about all the positives first?
Well, we can talk about the positive first because these are all positives.
All right, great.
So
it's got many positives.
Anti-cancer effect, huh?
Yeah. Compared to Ozempic, which
pro-cancerous, yeah.
Yeah, pro-cancerous.
Yeah, so apart from you might lose a bit of weight on Ozempic and
Well, you
lose
might
your
lose
life.
a lot of weight,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, a little bit of a problem, that.
Yeah.
But this has got some anti-cancer properties.
It does.
And it does. It regulates cell cycle and a potent antioxidant.
Yep.
Very good for repairing the liver if you've got damaged liver, again, in the right dosages. Also, another one that I found here is neuroprotective and antidepressant. Do you want to talk about how, if it works mainly in the gut, how does it help your brain?
Well, I think we've just done a podcast that came out on the gut-brain connection with mental health.
Now, wasn't it?
Yeah, so how the microbiome can definitely significantly impact our mental health if we have, overgrowth of proteobacteria, so inflammatory producing bacteria, so LPS producing bacteria, things like that, maybe low levels of those neurotransmitter producing bacteria.
Yep.
Obviously inflammation overall. So if you're modulating the gut Modulating the butt.
Did you say modulating the butt?
The gut.
You are modulating the butt if you take too much
Berberine. Steve, I
Berberine.
did not say butt.
We're going to get onto the butt stuff later. In fact, the next one is the butt stuff.
There you go. I was just ahead of myself. Modulating the gut is can only benefit your mental health. So that's where the action lies.
You don't want to modulate the butt, no.
No.
Okay.
Don't.
So it's funny. Normally I'm the one saying
I know. I haven't had lunch
I've got
yet.
a study on later that's I'm going to say some stupid shit that'll surprise you.
Yeah.
So it's very neuroattractive and antidepressant via the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'll ask the question: psychologists, psychiatrists out there, how often do you treat the gut? And I know a few psychologists and a few psychiatrists, or three of them, and actually my neighbour is a resident psychiatrist. And I was speaking to her one day. She's
sorry.
Yeah, she. And I said, "Oh, do you guys look at people's diets?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, we tell them to eat healthy." And it's like, what does that mean?
So they wouldn't even know what the person they're telling to eat healthy may not know what healthy means.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of like there's more to it than that.
There's a lot more to it than that.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's interesting too because it's not very well absorbed at all.
No.
So that's why it sort of stays in the gut. It has all these actions that are gut derived because it's not systemic. So if it's only working in the gut, yet it's helping your mental health, so then there's a connection there. I mean, that's pretty good evidence that whatever's happening in the gut is working in the brain because it's not a systemic
And imagine
product.
going to an orthodox medical conference and saying, this stuff's not absorbed, so it helps your brain.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put myself, I totally get it.
Yes.
But imagine if you're out there and you're a doctor and you go, this stuff's not absorbed, but it helps your brain. That's a really massive link. And even some listeners might go, well, if it's not absorbed, it does nothing.
Yeah.
Just goes straight through you. Have you ever heard that saying?
Yes,
Just goes straight,
straight
through
through
you.
you.
What does it do on the way through? Don't know,
Yeah.
but it just goes straight through you.
Yeah, does a lot on the way through.
You got a massive amount of bugs in your gut that do a massive amount of things. So if it goes straight through you, it's going to be problematic or beneficial.
That's right.
It's going to do something.
That's right. And it does do a lot. A lot. So
Now,
what else
this
is in the
graph
bubble?
also says it restores gut microbiome balance. The next little thing around is it's anti-inflammatory.
Yes.
Wow.
I know. How great is that? Well, there is studies. I struggled a little bit with this when we were doing research, this because we will bring it up probably closer to the end of my clinical observations. But I have seen quite a few negative effects on the microbiome with berberine, probably longer term dosing. But a lot of the studies we read showed that it did actually help to increase the levels of those short-chain fatty acid-producing bacteria. So your Faecalibacterium prenitzii, Akkermansias, things like that. So butyrate-producing, increases butyrate-producing bacteria. There was one study that we looked at that showed that in lower doses, it actually increased the levels of Klebsiella.
Klebsiella pneumonia, yeah.
Yeah, so Klebsiella is quite a nasty bacteria. You don't want high doses. It's an opportunistic bacteria, so you do have some in your gut naturally.
Yep.
You don't want high levels because it's histamine producing. In some people that, like yourself, Steve,
Screws with your back.
can trigger autoimmunity in people that have the genetic propensity for that.
I do.
So there you go. LPS produces so highly inflammatory. So in lower doses, it actually increased the levels of your Klebsiella, but in lower doses, in higher doses, it actually reduced it. What I have seen, since we're talking about it now, I won't do it at the end, is quite a significant bounce back effect with Klebsiella overgrowth when people come off berberine. And then they can obviously have issues with histamine intolerance and the other issues that come along with Klebsiella. So I've seen that quite a few times. So although we did struggle to find any clinical evidence of that, research-backed evidence, I have seen it in clinic. And as I said, within the industry, a lot of practitioners won't use it long-term because it does have a negative impact on that microbiome. So, and a lot of people are taking it long-term. So, 12 months, 2 years, some people, it's actually using it instead of metformin for type 2 diabetes, things like that, which can have some benefits, but also we don't really know entirely the long-term effects of taking berberine.
There's not many things we should really try and take long-term, maybe vitamins, and there's some herbs that you can, there's some plants you can eat all day till the cows come home. But when you've got a potent herb like this, and, let's say you're taking it for type 2 diabetes, and I'll get on my soapbox a little bit here, so it's a bit lectury, but you should be taking this for a short amount of time because then you can use your diet and exercise, which you can do forever until the cows come home, long-term to get rid of your diabetes.
That's right.
You just get over that hump. You don't take this for your diabetes. Take this while you're getting rid of your diabetes.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tool to help you. Yes, definitely.
Like, seriously, it's like I know types of diabetics who don't even exercise. You know, it's like that's like the first thing you should do. You should try your diet, eat really well and exercise, and then start dicking around with herbs and drugs and metformins and reglitazide and all these other potent drugs.
Yeah.
Before then, you actually should live better.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with what's going on out there at the moment with Berberine. People are jumping on board and just using that as something that's going to help their type 2 diabetes or fix their type 2 diabetes. It's not longer term. It's not short term. It does help, but you can't stay on it forever. No. Otherwise, you're going to have some microbiome issues, gut microbiome issues.
Yeah.
And then if you come off it and you haven't changed any lifestyle habits, and things are just going to go back to what they were anyway.
You're going to get your rebound Klebsiella. You're going to get rebound metabolic effects like Ozempic.
Yes.
Oh, that's horrendous.
It is horrendous. Yeah. Yeah. It's got some awful things. So
awful things. Moving around this table, it does lower your blood lipids. It reduces triglycerides.
Yep. High cholesterol, high blood pressure also reduces blood pressure levels as well. Study published in a journal of metabolism showed that berberine reduced serum cholesterol along with triglyceride levels in type 2 diabetic patients. So it seems to work by inhibiting PCSK9. So PCSK9 is an enzyme encoded by the PCKS9 gene and is predominantly produced in the liver.
Yep.
So that stands, PCSK9. I'm slowing down for effect, Steve.
Yeah, it's a good effect.
Proprotein convertase subtilisin kexin 9 is the actual full.
Well, there's a new class of drugs out just to knock that guy out.
That's right.
Which are bloody expensive, and you can only get them from a specialist now.
Yeah.
But this herb does it already and has for 3,000 years.
Yeah. So it binds the LDL receptors on the surface of the hepatocytes of the liver and degrades the LDL and increases. It degrades the LDL to the substantially to the higher plasma LDL. So it has really positive effects on your cholesterol and your blood pressure. Amazing,
because this is the new, like, we've got statins and post-statins. If you don't respond to statins, you can go to PSK, L9 monoclonal antibodies.
Yep.
And they're super expensive, but berberine is relatively cheap, isn't it?
It is relatively.
And it will help your cholesterol.
Much safer overall.
Than the drugs.
Than the drugs.
Definitely. Because LDL cholesterol is made in your liver.
Yes.
And so people don't know. People think it's the bad one. It's like, it's the one that delivers cholesterol to your body, so you need it.
Yep.
It reduces it. So berberine does all that. And there's many, many studies in this big review that's 32 pages long. Okay, so let's take it clinically. Let's look at a few things at a time. First thing is diabetes.
Yeah.
All right. So someone who's diabetic, reduce their sugars, refined foods, of course. Exercise. I like first thing in the morning. You can take things like cinnamon. So you would consider berberine for that sort of patient?
Yeah,
would you?
I would. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I put quite a few patients pre-diabetic. Or have type 2 diabetes. On berberine, I have got quite a few on them. Them on it.
I loved it when we were doing this podcast, and we get distracted sometimes at work. Remember we were talking about what are the interactions?
Yes.
And phenobarbital.
I know. One of the interactions was phenobarbital, which is they call it a suicide drug.
Yeah, well, it is a suicide drug, but because you can overdose on it, and Keith Moon is one of my favourite drummers of all time.
We were looking up videos of we do really serious work around here. We have videos of drummers on phenobarbital.
Well, he was prescribed it to get off the drugs.
Oh, that's right. He was on the drugs.
And of course, he overdosed them.
And he had the headphones taped to his head.
Yeah, because he's a druggie and he's like all over the place.
Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, the Keith Moon, great drummer.
Yeah.
But bad druggie.
Yeah.
But he died of phenobarbital. But phenobarbital is a good drug. It's used for anaesthetics and still used this very day.
But don't take berberine if you're going to have surgery.
Yeah, just be careful of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them use for surgery now. Use midazolam and fentanyl, which are safe. I mean, everyone's got fentanyl, bad thing, but if you use in the right amounts, it's proper. It's a good disassociative for surgeries. But they can use phenobarbital. Also for alcohol withdrawal and that sort of stuff too.
There you go. So
great stuff. So that's a good one for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now you also mentioned high cholesterol and high blood pressure.
Yep, high blood pressure.
There's studies on it, and the PCSK9, is the LDL thing, which is really good. So So somebody who's struggling, they're coming to see you in clinic, and this is where you may use berberine. You've got them on a healthy diet. You're getting them to exercise. Statins, it's not contraindicated with statins. And in fact, you found with this another drug that can reduce cholesterol is metformin. It's good for diabetes.
Yep.
But you found studies there where they've given metformin and berberine together.
Yeah. So they've shown that there is, because they seem to have the same they don't actually work on the same pathways, but they look like they have the same outcome. So they weren't sure whether putting them together was going to be something that was, a good idea or a bad idea. But they do both work on. So I'm just looking at my notes here to what the berberine metformin overlap.
Yeah. So
metformin was reported to implement its function through activation of AMPK. So
adenosine monophosphate kinase. Yep.
Exactly. So it occurs via the inhibition of complex 1 in the mitochondrial respiratory chain, which leads to an increase of AMPK.
Yep.
So metformin inhibits mitochondrial glycerol 3 phosphate dehydrogenase, leading to changes in the mitochondrial and cytoplasmic redox states and glucose synthesis. So that was metformin, and then berberine. Berberine blocks complex 1, leading to increases in glucose consumption and lactase release, which is independent of AMPK. So they're doing it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So they did do some studies on having both berberine and metformin, and had some really good.
You could.
You can, because they're working on different pathways. Some really good results with using both. So if you are on metformin, you can obviously talk to your doctor about it before you do anything, because we're not giving medical advice. But you can implement some berberine and possibly reduce your metformin and look at that.
Because metformin has side effects. It drops out B12 and does this.
Yep.
And metformin works similar to berberine in the gut too. It increases Akkermansias and that. They both do.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting study that they can both be taken together, and you may get better response.
You may get.
So instead of going nuts with the metformin, if you need to increase it or whatever, again, it's usually for diabetics. And again, I usually say try exercise and diet first. But all those things combined, you can get a great benefit with adding berberine into your. It's just incredible, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And what else have we got? So it stimulates the release of nitric oxide. So that's relaxing the arteries, increasing blood flow. So there's your lowers your blood pressure. So very good for the heart as well, that blood pressure. There is some research showing it's very good for arrhythmias as well.
In the heart, yeah.
Yeah. So I have read and heart failure. So I have read one study. It's all I could find this is a few years ago, and I was trying to research it for heart health. One negative reaction to berberine, it caused an arrhythmia.
Oh.
That was one study. That's the only study I found. The rest of them, it can actually be really beneficial for arrhythmias. So that's something that's a possibility as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor about that one.
Talk to your doctor about it.
Speaking of nitric oxide and blood vessel dilation.
Yes, here we go. Yep. We're pulling out this study. We've got
a study.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
Block your ears, all that sort of stuff, but it could be good for your erections.
Yes.
Nick?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
No, there was a study, and we better talk. It's published in Andrology, which is the one I read religiously because I'm old. But this is a great study, and what they did was they induced diabetes in rats, because, they did it in rats because you can't induce diabetes in humans. People get upset,
it's not ethical,
weirdly.
No.
Now, when you get diabetes increases damage to the endothelium, so you become impotent quite often. So they really gave it to these rats and gave them super duper diabetes, so they got super duper impotent. So unfortunately, and then they broke it down into 3 groups where they gave, I'll say generic words so we know, Viagra, and they gave berberine, and they gave a placebo. Now, comparing the treatment with berberine increased testosterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulator in a diabetic rat with erectile dysfunction, and it reduced things like prolactin and acetylcholinesterase, which is the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine, so that's very good for your brain. Angiotensin 1 converting enzyme, so it's good for your blood pressure. And so it worked these sort of things. It also improved their erections, of course.
There you go. There's that nitric oxide.
So if you've got an impotent rat in clinic...
If next time I see an impotent rat, I'll know exactly what to do.
You know exactly what to do.
Yes. I don't see a lot of them. It could be embarrassment. Well, maybe they're embarrassed about it. I don't know.
Oh, they could be.
They don't want to see anybody.
That's right.
That's a possibility. But
any
impotent rats out there will now know it's safe to see someone. There's an option.
We'll put a plug out there. If you're an impotent rat, come out and call Nick, and she'll be able to help you out. But I mean, that's all right. It's on rats, and we're having a bit of a laugh about it. But diabetes affects about 1 million odd Australians, and half of them are men, maybe more because we're fatter typically. Don't look after ourselves, so berberine as an option for the Viagras and the Cialises and the Tadafils.
Definitely.
I mean, why not? I mean, it's great for your diabetes as well. It's good for your heart. It's good. It's like it's starting to get a picture going here, but.
Well, there's another thing that they've some studies on to show it's quite good for, which can coexist with aging, cognitive decline.
Oh, thanks for telling me. Why are you looking at me when you said that?
I'm looking right at you, Steve.
Yeah.
So there is some studies that have shown there is some possible therapeutic potential of berberine for neurodegenerative diseases.
Wow.
So like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that. Trauma-induced neurodegeneration as well.
So that head impact disease that they're all getting these days.
Yeah. So positive. So there's some positive studies out there. It's not, it's
definitive.
It's not definitive yet, but there's definitely some positive studies. So it looks like that could be something in the future that could be another benefit.
Well, it inhibits acetylcholinesterase, and that breaks down acetylcholine. And if you inhibit that, that's where drugs work on Alzheimer's.
Yep.
You get more acetylcholine, you get more thought pattern.
That's right.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, this is starting to have a little bit of a picture of an overweight male with heart problems, high cholesterol, diabetic-y type person that's starting to lose it mentally and impotent. Yep. This sounds like a lot of older men. Yeah,
well, definitely. And there's obviously PCOS, we can't ignore that
well, I've got a paper here, and the title kind of says it all. A promising therapeutic approach to PCOS syndrome in fertile pregnant women with berberine. I mean, it's a beautiful review paper, and it talks about all the studies it works at, and it's quite incredible. And all the herbs with berberine. If it's got berberis at the start of it, consider it to have berberine.
Yeah.
So I mean, so PCOS women, so overweight women with diabetes or pre-diabetes or the high insulin that they've got.
Yeah.
And again, it works via the microbiome.
Yeah. So here's a study here on that. So ovarian cysts and fertility, obviously, so PCOS. So another study by Ann et al., 2014, evaluated the clinical, metabolic and endocrine effects of berberine versus metformin in PCOS women scheduled for IVF treatment.
Yeah.
Compared to placebo, greater reduction in total testosterone, free androgen index, fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and HOMA-IR, and increases sex-hormone binding globulin. So that was all observed in the berberine and metformin groups compared to placebo.
And that's good for a woman.
Yeah.
You don't want too much testosterone. PCOS women have high androgens.
They do.
That reduce that. In men, boost that.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to have higher sex-hormone binding globulin and lower testosterone in women, and then the opposite in men. You want to have higher testosterone and lower SPHG. So there's that. So the 3 months of treatment with berberine or metformin before the IVF cycle increased the pregnancy rate and reduced the incidence of severe ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, which is a possibility with IVF. And also treatment with berberine in comparison with metformin was associated with a decrease in BMI, lipid parameters, and total FSH. So they were just reduced a bit of weight and improved their fertility, improved their live birth rates as well when they're having babies. So that's amazing, isn't it?
So there was a woman who used to work here. I won't mention her name. She was a little overweight, and she went through IVF.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, she could have just tried berberine.
Yeah. I mean, IVF does increase the risk of heart attacks as well.
Because you have children afterwards?
I think that might, maybe.
Is that it? That'd be it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah. So after each cycle of IVF, it slightly increases your risk of heart attack. So if you can avoid IVF, and obviously some people can't, so that's what we're saying, but look at some maybe options beforehand, maybe berberine. If you do suffer from PCOS and you would like to get pregnant, berberine has some really good research around it.
Great drug, eh? I mean, great herb. And it really is good for microbiome. What about if you got a SIBO, one of those things? You said it's antimicrobial.
Yes, it's great for SIBO. So I actually said I use it. Like I said, I've used it fairly regularly in clinic. I will use it for SIBO. Hydrogen dominant SIBO, particularly, not methane or hydrogen sulfide. Not so good for those ones, but for it does work quite well for SIBO. So because of the antimicrobial action that it has in the small intestine. So very good one for SIBO that I've used it for. I use it for postmenopausal women who struggle with metabolic syndrome. Obviously, menopause can create more of an insulin-resistant picture. Yep. So I've used it for postmenopausal women as well. Some gut, I was using it for some gut issues originally. Yeah. Not so much now, but I do use it for a little bit of gut stuff. Very good for as a side effect, or a positive side effect for women. A lot of people that have gut issues have constipation. It's very good for constipation because it's obviously stimulating that liver as well. So I find it really good for getting some regulation back into your bowel movements. Nice. Regularity. Yeah. Yeah. So
remember that TikToker was saying that his poos are now very smooth.
Oh, yes, poos are very smooth, apparently.
Oh, jeez. Where's that on the Bristol chart? Where does it say smooth?
I know, smooth. Maybe it might have been a 4.
Okay, so this stuff's brilliant for the gut and everything else. It must screw with your liver, does it?
It doesn't screw with your liver. No. What? It doesn't even screw with your liver, Steve.
Doesn't even screw with my liver.
No,
surely.
Good for the liver as well. So it does have possibly have some liver protective effects on it as well. So some studies have shown that berberine has anti-hypoglycemic and anti-dyslipidemic actions, which you said. Yep. So it improves glucolipid metabolism, which can help address the root cause of some, say, fatty liver disease. Wow. So it can help with fatty liver disease as well. So, good for the liver. I mean, I've got so much stuff here. Let me just have a look at it. I can't go through it all. But
I'm looking at going, how do we, get to say all this in the one podcast?
I know. There's so much.
I haven't even talked about, the golden seal and this thing being great for your immune system and killing viruses.
It is what I will say about golden seal, Steve-o, if anyone's going to go out looking for golden seal, don't, because it's endangered. So I know. You're not really, if you can avoid it, better, because it is endangered. So, and that's why it's extremely expensive anyway. I think for a 500 ml tincture now, it's something like 400 and something.
No way. I was thinking you were going to say 100 and something.
Oh no, maybe it's not 400. It's very expensive. Very expensive.
It's funny. Nick and I, being herbalists and naturopaths, we share herbs and stuff, and I bought in a bottle of, what was it, Andrographis.
Andrographis for me, yeah.
And and that's a potent antimicrobial, super potent, like real strong. Really strong. Tastes like shit. I've given it to staff members here and they hate me for it. So, but you don't mind me for it because.
No, I love it.
But that the average herbal medicine costs about $60 or something for half a litre. Yeah. Which is more than you'll need. This stuff. Got to remember, half a litre is 500 mils, and at most you use about 20 mils a week. When I was getting sick the other day, I took a capful, which was about 10 mils all at once. I went, oh, shit, really strong. And I woke up, wasn't sick.
Yeah. No.
Because, I overdose myself.
You do. I know you do tend to go, you'll go the high end of everything, Steve, because you're like a racehorse. You just take
it's just a bottle there.
You just can cope with everything.
I don't want to get sick. So
no.
It's not like it's not that bad at that dose. I mean, I wouldn't do that every day forever.
No, and don't do that at home, people.
Yeah, if you're listening. But a Hydrasis like that's $400.
Yeah, I can look it up right now for you while we're chatting and tell you actually it's pretty expensive. Yeah. But because it's endangered, so you don't want to be having too much of it.
Screw your endangered plants. I want to get healthy.
That's right.
Remember the last podcast we were killing seals and that too? So, so we
have to block that out again now. It's two in a row, Steve. Over
two in a row. Yeah. All right.
So no, I tell a lie. It's $230 for 500 mils. So it's a pretty expensive herb. Yeah, it's pretty expensive, isn't it?
That's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, that's because there's not that much of it around anymore.
I remember in college we were told to make herbal tinctures, and on the exam was ignore the costs and all these other considerations, just make the healthiest and that sort of thing. So that would always be in it.
Really?
Yeah, because it was so good for lots of things,
So you got to take costs into consideration when you actually get out in the real world. Because people just don't have that much money.
I think the expensive herb in my day was Panax ginseng. I guess that still is pretty expensive.
That's pretty expensive too. Yeah. Pretty expensive. I mean, tinctures in general are quite expensive, which is a shame because they're the best. They're just the best way to get all your different herbs in
you mix them up. And so this is when you go to a herbalist and you're after berberine, They may put berberine in a tincture there, probably not hydrastis, probably something like barberry,
yes.
something a bit cheaper, if you wanted some berberine. But there's other things in there to address your specific needs. You know, you could put a cinnamon tincture in there to make it taste good, but also great for your blood sugars.
Definitely.
If you've got the testosterone thing, you want that, you can put some withania in there, or you can put some Damiana or Panax ginseng or any of these sort of things. So you can make a mix up. So seeing a herbalist is a really good idea for you to get your medicine. You know, I've got andrographs because it's just good for killing bugs. But you know, so berberine seems to have a lot of, you know, really good actions there. And a couple of other ones that worth mentioning. You mentioned the heart, but what about things like joint problems?
Yes.
Like I wasn't even aware of that.
Musculoskeletal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until we did this. So it's anti-inflammatory. That's how it works for microbiome, or?
Yeah. So I feel what I think the mechanism of action there is you're probably reducing your LPS producing bacteria in the gut, which are highly anti-inflammatory, cause a lot of pain, joint pain, that type of thing. So you're reducing those bacteria, you're going to reduce your joint pain. So that'd be my mechanism of action there. So, but yeah, here's one here: breast cancer. Berberine induced apoptosis in breast cancer cells.
Apoptosis is killing cells. So you want to kill cancer cells. You want apoptosis.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was that study? It was obviously on women.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that. Well, there's I mean, I'm just looking at all the ones here. Liver. So inhibit the growth of, here we go, in the brain. Berberine has been seen to inhibit the growth of human neuroblastoma cells.
Oh, they're very bad cancer cells.
Yeah. And also induces apoptosis in the glioblastoma cells as well.
That's the glue cells in the brain. The Latin, glio is Latin for glue, so it sticks your brain in there. Now, gliomas are very common.
They are.
And they're very deadly.
They are, yeah.
In fact, my wife's best friend died of a glioma.
Oh, really?
And she was only, in her 30s, I think. She just had a child, One of the first things I did with Beck was go to her funeral. As a couple thing, which is quite...
That's not a good first date,
not
is it?
Not a first date thing yet. And maybe it was the second date or something, if you call it that. But I'd never met her friend, but, it was like Jasmine was a friend who died of a glioma and she was in her 30s.
Yeah, that's sad, isn't it?
It's tragic.
What about thyroid cancer, babe? Thyroid cancer cells. So berberine's been found to inhibit thyroid cancer cells in vitro as well. So
in vitro means in a test tube environment.
That's right.
But still, it gets there.
It's positive. Like, we're not saying that this is all said and done that's going to do this, but there's a lot of studies that show a lot of promise for these types of things. So it just goes on and on. Prostate, immunological cancers. I just can go on and on.
So to summarise, I mean, to put, this is really a metabolic thing. Like, it helps with diabetes, weight loss, PCOS, those sort of groups, cholesterol-y things. Yeah. But it has these sort of tentacles, we'll call it, where it helps the microbiome typically at the right dose. It's also good for male sex health, good for female sexual health, PCOS and of course, impotence for men, maybe. It's maybe because it's only done in rats. Yeah. But then it tentacles out to your joints and it all sorts of other immune system. Yeah. I mean, this is potentially a really good herb. Now, we don't sell it.
We don't know.
We don't sell berberine here. So we're not flogging off a product here.
No, we wanted to do it because we wanted to put the information out there, because there's a lot of people, like we said at the start, taking it. The other thing a lot of people are taking it for is fasting.
Oh, so
because it improves your fast. It makes your fast easier. So disclosure, I took it for a little while just because I like to test things out on myself. It did, druggy, yeah. It did actually help improve my fast when I was doing some time restricted eating I was doing.
How long did you last?
18 hours. 20 hours. I can usually outlast about 14 pretty easily.
I was going to say I've done 16 and I was going to be really proud of myself and beat you, but you beat me already.
No, I ate then because I just felt like I should. But I mean, I can fast. I can do time restricted eating fairly easily. So, but it definitely did increase it and make it a lot easier. Wow. Yeah. So people are using it for that. So to improve their fast. So that's another thing. Just be careful with it. Don't overdo it. And as we said, you don't want to do mega high doses because it is quite strongly antimicrobial within the gut. So you're going to start messing with your microbiome. So don't do super high doses and don't do super low doses either, because we've showed that could actually increase your Klebsiella levels. So you want to get the dose right. I used to dose it, up to 1,500 milligrams a day in split doses. Whack. Yeah. I mean, some people are doing 3,000. Well, the one on TikTok was doing 3,000. No wonder he was pooping a lot. So short-term use only, and a lot of people are using it for longer-term with type 2 diabetes and things like that, or metabolic issues. Maximum 3 months, they've shown it to be pretty safe against any sort of decimation of your microbiome. But so 3 months, and then give it a rest. I'd pulse it, so you can sort of do it on and off. But to take it longer term than that, you're probably going to. Well, I have seen it in clinic impact the microbiome in a negative way. So you want to be careful of that. People out there that are just taking it, but it is an amazing herb. It has some great benefits. So.
I don't currently take berberine, but after this podcast, it's like the resume it does for the older man.
I know it doesn't, mate. Like, I've got some sitting in my dispenser.
We'll talk
I
after
haven't
this
taken
podcast,
it for ages. I know. If anyone, it is hard to get at the moment. Apparently, I've got a good stash of it.
Oh, really?
Apparently, one of the.
Is it hard to get?
Well, remember we were talking to someone that works here yesterday, and they're saying it's very hard to get at the moment because apparently it's had this massive popularity resurgence, so everyone's jumping all over it.
Because of TikTok.
People
get herbal medicine advice from TikTok now.
I know. And
what else
just
on
remember
TikTok? I just thought it was girls dancing in their underwear.
Oh, I think that's how it used to be. But now, look, there's some pretty good stuff on TikTok now, some pretty reputable stuff. So just if you're looking at TikTok, just look at the qualifications of the person. Because we looked at a couple that were doctors and they were saying no. So there's sort of like a bit of a sweet spot in the middle there. So it is an amazing herb. Like I said, I used it in clinic a lot.
Wow.
So it's amazing, but you've got to be careful how you use it. There's contraindications, as you said, with some medications. So medications that work on the P450 pathway as well. So it's going to
detox liver thing.
Yep. Can have issues there. So you want to be really careful with it. You don't want to overdose it. You don't want to do it long term. So don't just jump on the bandwagon and down the stuff because everyone on TikTok's doing it. There's good and bad in everything, isn't there? So you can choose what they want to watch. But just be careful of where you're getting information from. Make sure it's from a reputable source before you start taking all this stuff because everyone's saying it's the new Ozempic, which it's not. Definitely, if you're thinking about taking Ozempic, I would probably lean more in the direction of berberine if that's the case. But you just got to be careful with anything that you start taking.
That's good. So, and if you're on any medication, check with your GP. Just check.
Definitely check with your GP.
Because berberine's a potential
definitely. So you want to be careful, or talk to if you have a practitioner, talk to your practitioner as to whether that's a suitable thing for you.
Yep.
But like we said, it has some amazing benefits. So it's a great herb, just used in the right way.
Right.
Don't abuse it, people.
Exactly. Well, that's about all we're time for.
Yeah.
But what an amazing herb. Again, I want to take it.
I know, it's one of my favourites.
Oh, geez.
I've got many favourites, so why am I kidding? They're all my favourite.
We'll be back with our next favourite next week.
We will.
All right, see you then, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.